How's it? I'm just going to check that we're actually rolling. Yep, we're rolling. So the start and end of these videos are a bit rough because I'm not even editing them. I'm just putting the sound card straight, the SD card straight in the card reader, uploading it to my computer and throwing it straight on Facebook, because the whole idea is just getting this stuff up, you know, like it's real easy to put off making videos because you've got to get this just right and you've got to get that just right, or I need a little bit more time and stuff, but then, you know, make a video like the last one about the 308 blackout, and you know, heaps of people were stoked and some good comments on it and that, so we're making another one. This video is about I just want to talk about some main differences between different gun platforms, and here I've got a Sako, Sako 75. This started life off as a 223, and then someone barreled it to a 222. I don't know why you change a 223 to a 222, but that's what they did. And I brought it and I used it for goat control, contract goat control work. And I used it for that for a while, and then I got it re-barreled to a 308 blackout, so I could use the Lehigh subsonics. And so that's where I sort of first started using the Lehigh subsonics, and then I had the idea of putting a 1 1/8" twist barrel on a 308, and that's how we ended up with the what I call the 308 blackout. Then I've used 308s in the past and 708s, and was into long range reloading. So I sort of had this, which was the really specialized subsonic rifle. But I had that experience with the 308 or a 708 shooting high BC high velocity rounds, and it really pissed me off having to decide whether I wanted to just shoot subsonics or just shoot the big ear ringing high velocity rounds, you know, and then so that's why I really like this. But so I'll talk about the 300 blackout a little bit. This rifle's actually for sale at the moment, and I'll talk about the difference between the Sako platform and the Tikka platform, and some real key differences. And some of this stuff, and a lot of the stuff I'm talking about in videos is really, you know, I'm not that interested in talking about stuff that's always out there, and you know, there's you always see it in magazines or on forums or what people are always talking about. I more want to talk about, like, not so much common myths or misconceptions, but real stuff that I look at as being real key stuff that a lot of people aren't actually aware of, you know. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that are aware of all of the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this video, but there's a lot of people that aren't. And there's even a lot of people that do know a lot about guns and hunting and reloading and ballistics and all that stuff that will easily miss some of the stuff I'm about to talk about. And definitely, if you walk into your average gun shop and talk to the old mate that's in there, don't get me wrong, some guys in gun shops are bloody good and know a hell of a lot more than I do, but it's still easy for a beginner guy to walk into a gun shop and be sold something that isn't really the best for what he wants to do, and it's just so easy to get misinformation out there, you know. There's so much misinformation out there, or a lack of real information, you know. So anyway, I'll put my suppressor on this, so it is what it's supposed to be when it's fully put together. Main differences between Sakos and Tikkas is the mag box is the main thing, and one is, well, on this Sako, it's a box mag, but so I can take it in and out. I've actually had the button to remove that shortened, so you don't knock it and lose your mag in the bush, which the Tikkas are famous for that. They've got quite a big butt in there that's easy to bump and drop your mag out, and the light, quiet plastic mag just drops out and you don't hear it, and then you shoot something and go to reload and you've got no rounds there and your mag's gone. Famous for it. This one, my 308 Blackout, this camera bracket and handle here comes right across in front of it, so it actually guards it there, and you actually have to, I like my mag, I like to have to really stuff the tip of my finger in there and give it a good push to pop it out. That way I can always access it really quickly and easily, but I'm not going to bump it and drop it and lose it. That's one, thing to talk about. But the huge difference between, one of the two huge differences between a Sako and a Tikka is a Sako, I can go like this and load around. A Tikka I can't. So a Sako, and this is huge, guys, when you're hunting, particularly bush stalking, and I'm going from unloaded to a semi-ready position a lot. So I can put the bolt in here, push the round down, and I can do a visual check of the chamber, watch the bolt close on the empty chamber, pull the trigger, close the bolt, and I'm closed on the empty chamber with my firing pin uncocked. I'll do that a lot anytime I get to a creek crossing or a log or any bit of crap that I have to climb over, that if I'm not good and steady, able to have two hands on the rifle, good footing and all of that, I'm doing that. I'm unloading, I'm getting through it, and then I'm going like that, and I'm going to drop the mag up because I'm not going to put a round in the chamber inside. I can just go from closed on an empty chamber like that. I'll usually in the bush, I'll put a finger in there, and which just so it doesn't noisily jump out of the mag, and just quietly slide my round back in. With this rifle, I would close it right up and go on safety. And then I'm bush stalking at my state of semi-readiness. So I'm basically, the firearms code and the firearm rules say don't load a firearm until you're expecting to see game, expecting to fire a shot. So once I'm through an obstacle and I've got 2 feet firmly planted on the ground, and I'm steady and I'm walking and I'm holding the rifle properly, and I'm actively stalking, looking for something to put a bullet in, I'm on my state of semi-readiness, which on this rifle is bolt fully closed, safety on. Now, throughout a day of bush stalking, I'm doing that constantly. Opening and closing, opening and closing. Every time I stop to have a drink, stop to take a shirt off, put a layer on, stop if I'm hunting with someone else, every time we stop to talk. Anytime I stop, I've talked about this in another video, I'm always opening up. Anytime I get distracted, anytime there's a break in what I'm doing, so if I'm hunting and anytime my brain is going from, okay, I'm hunting, looking for something to shoot, to, okay, I'm going to stop and maybe I'll check my GPS quickly, okay, and yeah, I'm going to keep going or whatever, but anytime I stop to do something other that's going to take more than a few seconds, I'm opening my bolt. That's just a big safety thing. A lot of accidents happen after people stop because of that. The gun's actually loaded and then they've been carrying it unloaded, and then they load their gun quickly because something happens, and then they get distracted and start talking or do something or take a shirt off, and then they carry on as if thinking their gun's unloaded again, but it's actually loaded, and that's where a lot of accidents happen because they just got distracted. Anyway, so I'm doing that constantly all day, and when I do that with a Sako, I can't do that with the mag in, with a round in, but let's say there's no bullet in the chamber there, but let's say there is and my mag box is in. I can lift my bolt handle, slide back until that bullet pops off the extractor and just push it straight down in the magazine and close it. So it's literally walking on semi-readiness, on safety. Okay, I'm going to do something. I'm done. With a Tikka, every goddamn time. Okay, so empty magazine, empty chamber, but let's pretend we're hunting and I've got a bullet up the round. I've just got a bullet up the spout. I have to go tip the bullet out, pop the mag out, go like that, have two hands free, put the bullet back in, close the chamber, go like that, and go like that and carry on. And it pisses me off. Might seem like a funny little thing, but when, you know, like doing the contract work, carrying a gun all day, every day hunting, it used to piss you off. It was just unnecessary, you know, and that's one of the many small things why professional hunters have always liked Sakos, you know, they really have, and a lot of other professional hunters that mightn't use Sakos don't really like Tikkas because of that, because of the whole box mag, the single stack box mag that you can't push another round in from the top. You have to pop the mag out, put one in, stuff like that. People don't like the crappy plastic mags. People don't like the fact that the mag comes out easy and all this stuff. The other pain in the ass, it's just not an issue. This is why I've gone back to using a Tikka now that I'm not doing any contract work. When you're shooting higher numbers of animals and you're trying to shoot, you know, more than just one or two, as most recreational hunters only want to shoot one animal, sometimes maybe two. When you're culling in that, or when you're doing anything and you just want to shoot a heap of animals, professional applications and stuff, being able to engage, fire a few rounds, and then have ammo in a pocket or in a belt pouch, and all you have to do is, while you're cycling, open up, and while you're repositioning, you're popping rounds in, and you can put 1, 2, 3, you're getting rounds in, and then you're back into it, and you can just keep rolling. 1 or 2 shots here or there, another couple of rounds in, couple more shots, couple more rounds in, and you have like these big rolling contacts like that, where all you have to do is open your bolt and you're feeding more rounds in. And you could throw a lot of lead around with the bolt action that you can top feed like that. That's why a lot of goat killers don't like Tikkas. But then a lot of goat killers do like Tikkas, and they use a 10-shot mag, or they can swap mags, or they just do the whole big shimmy thing and use both hands. So that's one of the big differences. And it might be a small difference to a lot of people. You might think it's a small difference, but it's actually, when you're really getting into it, it's quite a big difference, really. So really, that's a big pro to the Sako, or the box style mag. So this is a box style. On the 75, oh, my light just died there, I'm not going to worry about that. On the Sako 75, they changed it to a dropout box mag, but on the older Sakos, the Foresters and the Vixens and the A2 Hunter, it just had a floor plate. And you actually had a bit more room. So this is the 75 short action. You actually had a bit more room to feed rounds in the top on the Vixens. I used the Vixen for a while doing goat control work, and the Vixen, even though it was wasn't stainless, not being stainless was a bit of a pain in the ass. This is bloody handy, this thing being stainless. but they just had a little bit nicer action. There was just something different about it. There's more room in the top here to feed, and the bolt just sounded and felt different. There's just, this is still very, very nice. It's a really nice little rifle, really nicely weighted because it's just got a 16-inch barrel on it. Shoots real straight. It did when it was a 222, and it does as the blackout. But there's just something about those wood blue Vixens, the action and the trigger and the stock and everything is very, very nice. But this is basically really just as nice, but it's just different. What else? Another big difference is, I'm going to get to some of the pros on the Tikka, because this has got a lot, and you know, obviously, and that's what I'm using. That's why I'm using it now. But actually, this thing with the Sakos could be a pro or it could be a con, and we're going to get to that. And this is perhaps one of the biggest differences between the two platforms, is that Sako have a mini action and a medium action and a magnum action, and that's a big part of the reason why they're more expensive. Is this is a 222. Started off as a 223, so it's a very short action, which means shorter, literally shorter action. There's your action there, and a smaller bolt, tiny little bolt. Where's the bolt for my 308? It's in it, isn't it? The 223 Tikka uses the same bolt, same action for everything. So it's a lot bigger, longer. Well, it's not even a longer bolt stroke, because all they do is change the bolt stop. Does that make sense? The bolt just stops less, not as far out, and the opening gets smaller, but the action stays the same. So that's a big part of why these are cheaper, because whether it's a 223 or a 300 Win Mag, it's all the same action. They just cut a different size hole in the side and put a different size bolt stop, and the bolt just doesn't slide as far. So you could say for a lot of applications that's a big plus for the Sakos. You only have as bigger action and a bigger bolt as what you need. And you know, they call this the Sako mini action, and they are quite a cool dinky little action like that. But so that's people's sort of main complaint with Tikkas. A lot of people say, oh, they have the long action, the same size action for everything, but it's also their biggest advantage, and that's the main reason why I use it. Going back to using a Tikka again, is the nice long action allows me to fit big long projectile high BC projectiles seated right out close to the lens. So that's a whole thing. With hand loading, a big part of what makes hand loads and custom loading, what a big advantage that has, is you can seat your bullet nice and close to the land, so it's a short jump, which can give you a lot of accuracy improvements. Most factory ammo, which is done to sort of just standard specifications that is designed so it'll fit in any rifle, will have, you know, 120,000 thousandths of an inch of jump. So the bullet is actually, if you close the bullet in the chamber, it's not actually pressed up hard against the beginning of the rifling. There's actually a tiny jump there. In the case of 100 thousandths, it's 1/10 of an inch of a jump to where it actually hits the land. So when it first goes bang, it's actually just floating for a hair of a second, you know. And for obvious reasons, the closer you can get it to that, and every rifle's different where that sits, the better. But when you start to seat them out, they start to get longer and they start to not be able to fit in a lot of box magazines. And when you've got a short action like the Sakos, you know, this is obviously a mini action, but if you've got a lot of Sakos, a lot of other manufacturers that do a box mag like this, a lot of rifles, you can't fit bullets seated right out in factory mags. And another huge part of that too is once you start using high BC projectiles, and high BC projectiles are long for weight. Short fat projectiles don't fly through the air as efficiently. So BC stands for ballistic coefficient. And the ballistic coefficient is how efficient the bullet is at flying through the air. And as a very rough general rule, short fat bullets have a low BC, long thin bullets have a higher BC. So bullets like the ELDX have a very long thin profile. They have a very long tapered section to them, and so they're longer. And then so you take these long high BC projectiles and seat them right up to the lands, and you end up with a bloody long bullet. And they don't fit in the mag, and it's a pain in the ass. Like this round, the high BC hand loads didn't fit in the mag of my A2 Hunter, my Sako Forester. They didn't fit, so I had to bush hunt with it with factory ammo, which is fine. But then if I was hunting out in the open, long range and that, I had to actually get a bullet out and hand load it in, sit it in the chamber and close it. You know, it's a pain in the ass. Whereas with the Tikka, so this was, I talked about that in the last video, this is a 308 that's actually been built from we got a brand new 2506 and put a 308 barrel on it. So I've got a nice long action and a nice long mag that I've got heaps of room in my mag. Heaps. And that's good, you know, because even if it does fit, once it starts getting a little bit tight, you can start getting jamming and feeding issues. It's a pain in the ass. You want a good bit of room. So that's a huge plus, you know, and even for guys that have a 308 that they want to have a Tikka 308 that they want to hand load for and use those long high BC rounds and seat them right up to the lands. You can actually modify your Tikka magazine, or get a different magazine and modify or get a different bolt stop, and you can lengthen your Tikka magazine box setup right out, you know. So that's really it. That's the main things I wanted to talk about here. That's the main differences between Sakos and Tikkas for me. Sakos, you can feed them from the top. They're bloody nice. Really nice guns. They've got a different feel, a little bit nicer feel to them. You know, some of the newer model Sakos are getting a bit cheaper and plasticky and stuff, but you know, most of the Sakos have a steel trigger guard, steel under chassis and all of that, whereas the Tikka has a plastic trigger guard and all plastic underneath and all that sort of stuff. So there's just a few things like that. But the real kicker with the Sakos is that side stacking top feeding mag. And the Tikka mag, see this mag holds, the Sako holds 6 rounds, and so did my A200. I think that held 6 rounds because they actually stack, they side stack. This first one kicks over to the left, second one kicks over to the right, and so on and so forth. And so they actually stack side by side in there. Whereas the Sako, the Tikka mag, just single stack, so it only fits 3. You can get 10 shot mags, but then they start sticking out the bottom. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. But you know, so you still can do that. You can still put a 10. That's a good point. Is you can put a 10-shot mag in this. You can only put 6 in a lot of the Sakos, and I don't know about the availability of longer mags. You can probably get them. You can get most things these days. A lot of aftermarket parts. You know, and this doesn't just go for the Sako Tikka thing either. You know, a lot of guns, and you know, I'm not going to talk about guns. These, I have a lot of personal experience with these two brands of guns and these models. I've had Forester or A200, whatever you want to call it. I've used Tikkas a lot. I've used Vixens, and I've used this a lot. But a lot of the other box type mags will be the same, and you can't, you know, like X bolts and Browning X bolts. I don't know what the Remington 700s are like, but it's just something to keep in mind. And a lot of those Browning X bolts, Remington 700s and stuff like that, you probably can. There probably is workarounds, or there definitely is. But a lot of it, I don't think is quite as easy as the Tikkas. And the other thing about the Tikkas is they do shoot very freaking well out of the box. They're just famous for it and not being fussy. And again, people are going to comment and say, my X-Bolt shoots real well and I fit this in and that. And I'm, you know, but I'm just talking about what I use and why I use it. I think that's it. For those of you who give a shit, this is actually for sale. I had it for sale a while ago. I had this in my Forester for sale, my A2 Hunter 708. The 708 sold, this didn't. So I had the big ugly handle thing on it that I've been filming with and stuff, and in an old Burris scope. So I've put, this is quite a really tidy Leopold VX1 3-9 that's on here. I think they're steel Burris rings, the self-aligning Burris rings, nice rings on there. That's a Silens, or what is now the Kaimai suppressors. It's a proper subsonic model. And this is a Sako 75 300 blackout. This gun shoots the Lehighs really well. And you can also shoot, you know, high velocity 300 blackout ammo through it. I actually wrote 1 or 2 articles about the 300 blackout and NZ Hunter. And that's the high velocity, that's the subsonic round there, the Lehigh. Controlled fracturing, I've talked about them a lot, written about them and stuff. And that's the high velocity Belmont round there, and they're bloody good up to about 200 meters. And if you want to use high velocities in the bush, they 130 grain, doing around 2,000 feet per second or whatever it is. And hollow point, they really open up and pack a real punch, make quite a mess. Real nice little bush gun. If you're the sort of person that's hunting in like Kaimana was, but just bush stalking in Kaimana was like Clements Mill Road type area where you're not getting like any long range stuff. Kaimais, even some people that hunt places like the Uaweras and stuff like that aren't interested in glassing and long range hunting in that. The 300 blackout is perfect for the type of person that likes shooting bush stalking reds with a 222 or 223, and just wants to take that extra little step. The 300 blackout high velocity rounds definitely kill a lot better than a 222 or 223, even though it's the same case. It's a much bigger projectile, packing a lot harder punch, and then you've got that option of going to the full subsonic Lehigh rounds, and which again I've talked about a lot, and they're really cool, you know. Full subsonic, super quiet, shoot one animal here, walk around the corner, and the next one